Hey there YouTube, AJ here, and today I'm back on the flathead teardown. This is part 2, and previously we removed the heads, the intake, discovered all the nastiness that's inside of it, removed the water pumps, some other stuff, but we're working on the block now, and it's time to get the valves out of here. You can see the valves here in the top of the head. But to take them out, you got to go into all the nastiness inside. Now I am cheating because I've got the passenger side all completely removed now. And it was not fun. Maybe you can see inside here. All of the driver's side is still needed removed. And it is full of sludge and coked up carbon, etc. And so it's a wonderful thing. You can see on the passenger side, we've removed most of that sludge and coked up stuff, and as well as the valves. Now the lifters themselves are still in the bore. I'm sure they're quite stuck too, but we'll get to that later. Now I did go ahead and remove this side mainly for practice. Learn what works for me, what didn't, what works for this engine. Other engines may be completely different. I can tell you the standard of Ford approved methodology of removing the valves didn't do anything for this motor. It was too stuck. It was miserable. Now, the design of these valves and how Ford actually meant for these to be removed is actually quite elegant. Yes, the 8BA flathead Ford valves are a simple and elegant design. Only 6 parts involved in each valve. We start off, we see in the black here, that would be your block, and your valve would run down through it. Nestled into the block is the valve guide. This holds the valve true to its bore and keeps it centered in its seat. Then you have the spring. The spring is what returns the valve to its closed position after the camshaft has raised it to allow exhaust to leave or fuel air mixture to enter. At the bottom of the spring, there is a spring cup. The spring cup's job is to hold the retainer clips. The small retaining clips are a split collet design. They have a raised area inside them, and when they are clamped around the valve stem, they create a mushroomed end that will not slip through the spring cup. To install them, the valve is first inserted into the guide, then the spring, and the spring cup. The spring must then be compressed, and the collet pieces are slipped into the groove. The pressure of the spring into the spring cup over the collet will not allow them to separate and holds the whole assembly together. To install the assembly, it is slid through the top of the block down into the bore for the valve guide. The valve guide must be pushed down to where this groove is below the counter bore in the bottom surface of the block. And then this C-clip is inserted into the groove, and the valve assembly is allowed to expand back up into the counter bore, where this C-clip will hold the valve assembly from being pushed back out through the bore for the valve guide, and thus completing installation. To remove the assembly, you use the special Ford tool to reach in through the spring and grasp this groove. You then lever the whole assembly down to where the C-clip is beneath the counter bore and then simply removed. Then the valve assembly can then be pushed back up through the valve guide bore and out of the block. Very simple, very elegant. However, that was not the case with this motor. It was, as you saw, all the crud in there and rust, and these valves and guides, they were really stuck. Hopefully I can show you the methods I learned, the things that work better for me. I'm not even going to try the standard factory recommended method of removing these because I know it's not going to work on these. All I'll end up doing is tearing stuff up. So we're going to go ahead and use the methods I've already learned, and I'm going to show you how I did that. And some of them worked somewhat well. Others, they were too stuck and I had to go to destructive methods. Before we get into that though, let me show you some of the tools you're going to need. Okay, first off, you're probably going to want some gloves because this is really messy. And then next we have this Ford factory valve tool. You can probably get along without that, but it is actually very helpful. You're going to need some flashlights to see, and as well as some gripping tools. You can see I got a pair of vice grips over there, and a good set of pry bars is going to be really invaluable, as well as some scraps and things to pry against so you don't damage parts. You're going to need some beading instruments, and if you're unlucky like me, you're going to have to use some weapons of destruction and things that can cause severe damage in there. Magnet on a stick is a good idea, as well as having some little picks like that and some screwdrivers handy. On top of that, you might want some lubricating fluids. You're definitely going to want some rags. A shop vac comes in handy, and I would recommend having a way to store all of your pieces as you take them out. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is spin this thing around and try to take advantage of my lighting so you can actually see what I'm doing in here. And then I'm going to go change from my good shoes into my bad shoes so I don't get these things all nasty. Be right back. Okay, I would also recommend you set yourself up in a comfortable position to work on all this with a stool, because you're going to be here a while. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is vacuum out all this crud in here. So you can probably see that I've already done this, most of this side. We're going to try to get this a lot better cleaned out in there and make our lives better. I'm probably going to have to use a combination of stuff to scrape and vacuum as I go, so I'm going to throw you on time lapse. Okay, I'm not going to show you all that vacuuming I did. It did take a long time, so but it's a lot better in there now. You can see, kind of see what you're doing. I didn't get it perfect. There's still some crud there, but this is enough where I can start working on this thing. The ideal way of removing these would be take this tool, reach in through the spring, get a hold of that groove in the guide, pry it down, then pull out the little C-clip retainer that's in there. I don't know if you can see it, but I can. Up in here. And then the whole valve assembly should come out the top. Well, like I said, also, I don't think this engine stands any kind of chance of that happening because it's just too gunked up and too rusted up, etc. So we're going to go on to method number 2 that I was learning. I'm going to start with this intake valve here because it's partially open and this piston and cylinder looks the best. So I think these are going to come out hopefully the second easiest way. I imagine I'm going to have to break some valves to get this thing apart, but I'm going to try to save as many valves and parts as I can along the way. As you can imagine, there's no easy way to get into this motor and film. So I'm going to do my best here and explain, and then hopefully it'll come out halfway decent on film. Okay, I'm going to start with this intake valve, which I can see in here. And the first thing we're going to do is pry up on the spring with our Ford approved tool. Ooh, and it doesn't want to move. Oh boy. Are any of these going to move? There goes one. Alright. Oh, that's not a good sign. Oh boy. We're already off to a really bad start because only one spring wants to move. Oh, there's another. Oh, this one should be easy to get out. So let's start with this. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is number 5. Let's start with number 5 because it should be the easiest to get out. We're going to pull up our spring But because it's lifting the entire valve, and right now we need to get the keeper out of the bottom of it, we're going to have to try to get that valve to where it doesn't come up with the spring. There we go. Now we're going to, oop, it went back up. Pump it down. Now we're going to use a pick to fish out our keepers. There's one free. I know you can't see it, but I can. All right, let's see if I got them. I think I did, but I'm not positive. This is where we're going to grab our magnet on a stick, reach in. Okay, there's one keeper. Let's see if the other one's in there. Okay, I don't think I got the other one out. I gotta go back in. I'm going in after her! So we're gonna try to lift our spring up. Put our valve back down. Shoot. Shoot, I keep dropping my pressure off the... Oh, I see it. I got it out. Okay, so it's down here. Click. There we go. Now, ideally, that valve will come back up this time on purpose. I want it to come up this time. So we're going to try to jam it in there. And hopefully, we can pull the valve out like that. Hey, that wasn't too bad. Now here's where things get a little wonky again, because now we got to get out the guide and the spring. Well, the spring, just going to kind of force it sideways in there, off its seat. You can see the bottom spring keeper just fell out. So keep all that together. Now all we really want to do is just kind of pry the spring out sideways, kind of any way we really can. Actually, this works better for that, because, or maybe a combination of hooking the spring, prying it sideways, and prying it down. There it goes. So, not quite. It's not quite free yet. Almost. There. Now we got our spring out. So we got a valve, spring, keepers. So you can see the bottom of the keeper there, and the C-clip above it. Because that C-clip is recessed up into the block, you have to drive it down to get it out. And I have found the easiest way to do this is to just take a socket, put it onto the keeper, and just drive the keeper on through. You want to use a socket smaller than the bore, but big enough to give some kind of support over the keeper. Okay, bam. There we go. There's our keeper, or there's our guide. With our keeper still stuck on it, man, it does not want to come off, so we'll have to do some work to get that off. Normally they come off pretty easy, but this guide's still in good shape, keeper's in good shape. We should be able to reuse it. Now if we reassemble this valve the way it was in the motor, we get the valve going into the guide, or the keeper that holds the guide from getting pushed out of the block, your spring cup, which goes on here, and then we have these two angled split keepers that when you push the spring down and this cup up and put these around it, when the cup comes down, it holds it against the spring to keep the whole assembly together. So I now have, I have 1 valve out of the driver's side, and I got 7 more to go. If they all come out this easy, I will be very, very grateful. This was our exhaust valve on cylinder 5 here. So I'm going to take and put all these components into a Ziploc bag and keep it all separate. Since the exhaust came out so well on the number 5 air, let's go ahead and see what the intake's like. It is not budging on the spring. Oh man. Sometimes you can take the spring and try to make it go the other way, get some stuff freed up. This one, oh, there it goes. Did it go? No, it did not. All right, let's skip that one for now. Let's see what else we got. Okay, this one's moving. All right, this one's moving and the valve's up, so I'm going to guess that exhaust valve's going to come out about the same. So let's go ahead and try another one. Now, this valve is up for a different reason, because this lifter is up. So it's already pushing this up, so popping down on this one's not going to do me any good because it's just going to hit the lifter. So we want to be able to move the spring up and then fish out the clips, hopefully. Well, those clips are up in the cup too. They don't want to come down. Shoot. So this is where I'm using the hook. I'm sticking up into the cup trying to break the retainers free. The retainer appears to be stuck to the stem. Try a little percussive shock therapy. All right, now would be a good time to use something I forgot about. I should have just started by getting some lube into all these things. You know what, before I do that, before I lube up these, I probably should vacuum these out, because there is a bunch of gunk up inside. There is gunk up in these intake runners, so I need to vacuum those out. I also take a pick and dig around, go through the intakes and dig around the back side of the valves to kind of knock stuff loose on the back side of them, because sometimes that gets packed in there pretty good. I love how I think I'm an expert after taking out one side of a block. I am not an expert, people. I am learning this as I go. Vacuum those out again. So we're going to spray some lube down into the pockets, some around the valves themselves out here. And then lastly, I'm going to pour just a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil down into the, oops, that one got a big gulp, down into the intake runners that sit around the valve guide and the valve stem. Hopefully that'll help things move when I get to those. Now let's see what we can do here. We were working on this one. Sometimes you can just jiggle them around, get them working again. But we're still trying to get that retainer out of the bottom of this one. Okay, I am not seeing the guides on there. Did they go back up in again? Okay, not the guide. I'm not seeing the retainers on there. Sometimes they fall in and get into gunk, so you just run the magnet back and check to see if they came out. And that doesn't seem to be the case on these, but looks like there's some, what is back there? I see something back there. I I believe the guide is behind the spring and just stuck under it. Let's, or not the guide. I keep calling those guides. They're not guides. Those are the keepers. I believe my keeper is stuck behind the spring now, or at least one of them. Let's see here. Ah, oh, come on. There's one. Ah, oh, I got them both. Look at that. Got a twofer. Okay. Now we have some options. Can't really get a hold of this valve to see if I can get it out. You can try to get underneath it and pry, or you can very carefully slide this tool under it, which right now it won't fit. So I'm going to just take a screwdriver and gently see if I can, not that one, that won't go under. I'm going to take a small screwdriver and just real gently see if the valve will move. It moved a little bit. I think we can get it. It's moving up, but then it's sliding back in, so it's got some tension on it. Oop. And see, it's not wanting to go. The other way is to try to get something underneath the valve stem, but on top of the lifter. I've been using this body shim that I've tore up doing this. So basically all I'm going to do is put it to go under the cup. Give her some taps. And it's not wanting to slide in. We can also try to lift up our valve spring with a forward tool and try to get underneath it with a pry bar or something, but I don't think that's going to work either. So now we start getting more drastic. Not going to go easy, but if we can get it started, we might still be able to save the valve. So I'm going to come over here at the pry bar. Let's hit our little one first. See, I got a feeling the head's going to bust off of it before it wants to move. Ow! See, I think the valve's already bent. That's part of the problem. It's not centered in the seat. Boink, there it goes. On one hand, I expect that. I broke a lot of valves. What sucks about what just happened is the valve stem is still down in the valley, and it's keeping the spring from coming off, and which also means that it's keeping that keeper from coming off. And because it's all the way down and against the lifter, the only way for me to move forward here is to try to break that stem off or bend it enough to where I can get the spring out. This is where the weapons of destruction come into play. This is the not fun part. Okay. Now some people would just take a die grinder, go in there, cut through the spring, and cut through the valve stem to get it out of the way. I've been taking a chisel and going through the springs and hammering onto the valve stem, and in which right now it doesn't seem to be going through the springs at all. There. And I found that these have broken with various degrees of difficulty. Looks like it's bending. Or maybe just broke. Alright, looked like it broke because the spring moved a lot all of a sudden. So hopefully we can just pry this. Yeah, it broke. Yeah, that's cool. Alright, so let's see what we can do to get this out of here. Okay, there went the keeper, or not the keeper, the bottom cap. It came out. This should pop off. There we go. All right, there's our valve, or there's our spring. There's the rest of our broken valve. There's some other pieces in there. I'm hoping this isn't valve guide that's broke. It is. Yep, broke another valve guide. That's the second one I broke. Hopefully we can keep it to one on each side. Now we return to our socket and hammer. drive that one out. Be prepared to sacrifice a socket because this socket is trashed. What was this? This was my 9/16 deep well. Absolutely toasted. Maybe I should have made a tool for this. I probably have pipe that would have fit for this. Oh well. Too late now. Alright. So there's our broken guide with our keeper clip still on it. Man, these clips are on there good. They don't want to come off. It's going to take a little effort. But anyway, guide with valve stem stuck in it. Broken end on this end. This one's trash. We'll be able to save the keeper. That's about it. So let's bag and tag this one and move on. Since the spring is moving on number 7's exhaust valve, let's go ahead and try that one too. We'll just keep our theme. There, look at that. One keeper just popped out on its own. I just lifted it up. It don't come out much easier than that. It just popped out from me lifting the spring up and wiggling it. Did the other one come out? I don't see it, but let's see if we can get it real quick. Lift the spring. Go fishing. Ah, there we go, it's loose. Come on, there it goes. All right, so we got that one out. Magnet. Oh, there it is. I'm always losing the magnet because it gets attracted to tools and stuff and it goes moving from where I set it. All right, so there's the other one. Now, can we get this valve to move without breaking? We'll try our little wedge trick just in case. Not really. Okay, come over to this side. Oh man, there's not really anything there to get a hold of. Let's see if we can get it with the not cool, dude. Not cool. So our choices are here. Are probably limited to destroying the valve. Damn. This is actually a pretty good cylinder, so I was expecting it to come out. Nothing. But we're going to move on to this last exhaust valve. See if it'll come out. And if not, what we'll do is we'll just try to get all the keepers out from the bottom, and then we'll spray it down and let it soak for a little bit. Okay, one thing I did just discover while trying to get to these keepers, none of those springs wanted to move other than these two. And then I started prying on the cup in the spring, and I pried on each side of it a couple times. I was able to break that cup free, and then the spring would start moving. And this one's being a bear though. There, I think I just popped. There it goes. All right, now I think I got all the springs moving. Oh man, these just don't want to play nice. There's that one. There we go. All right, so now back to getting all the keepers out. Okay, sorry about the lawnmower noise, but I got all the keepers out using my normal method. Alright, since this valve's up, we're going to give ahead and give a few attempts to get it out. Oh, moved a little bit. All right, that's good. Okay. In a situation like this, it's moving, but it's taking some force, and you don't want to break it or bend it. So you go in very small increments, getting whatever you can underneath it. See, I can't get this tool under there yet. So we're going to move to bigger pry bars. All right, it's coming. Okay, notice I can only get it so far with each tool. This is where the other implements come into place. Just simple block of wood. Changing your fulcrum point so you can keep trying to pull on it straight as can be. Oh, and sticking up. Something else you can do if it gets stuck is to try to make it go back in a little bit, work it a little bit. I think I just broke the valve. Shit, I did. Damn it. Alright, chances are it wasn't coming out of there anyway, but you know, it seemed to be really stuck in that position. Clean out our, there's a lot of goop in this intake. Poured around the valve. It was rusted in there pretty good. I'm shocked it moved that much. What I should have done instead of prying on the head was, once I got some space down here in the bottom, I should have pried from the bottom. I didn't even think about that. Pry the spring up and then pry on the bottom of the valve stem with a pry bar. Like I said, I don't think it was going to matter in this case. It's pretty stuck. What sucks though is I'm probably going to have to break this valve stem too, because it's not up far enough to get the spring clearance to come out. Honestly, the best thing that can really happen right now is that the bottom of the valve stem would just break off too. But that doesn't want to happen. This is where we get our chisel out again. Now, since this valve stem is already partially up, I might get lucky and be able to just bend it over far enough I can get to my get my spring out. Whew. She don't want to move. All right, we got a unique one here. So this one, I broke the valve off. Then I think I broke the valve stem, but I broke it up high, and it won't come out, wouldn't have let the spring kick over and get out. So I drove the valve guide down into the engine. Was able to get my keeper out the way you're supposed to when you do that, but you know, still got this broken valve stem in there. But now the spring's fully compressed, it won't move. My valve guide is down about a ½ inch into my engine block. So now what? We're going to try to pry this up, see what happens. Oh, I'm afraid of that. I can't get the thing in there. Whew. I was afraid of that. Where's my hammer? Yep, I didn't go back up in there, is it? Oh, it did. Hey, look at that. I was able, all right, so I was able to get the valve guide to pop back up in. Maybe we can get this thing to go all the way through going the other way. Well, it only went so far, about to where it was before. That did get me out of my pickle though. Now if I can just get the stupid spring to kick out. Maybe I have not broke that valve. I don't know. The only thing I can think of right now is to drive it back in, clean the bore, try to lift it back up, and try to keep lifting it until I can get it all the way through. Put some lube in there, because why not? Hopefully it'll help. Now we're going to drive this thing back in, lift it out, drive it in, lift it out, see if we can make it do something. Is that spring compressed in there yet? No, I think it's pushing it back out. Huh. Interesting. I think the spring is wanting to push the valve guide back out. It is. Every time I hit it in, it pops back up. So maybe if we work it a little bit, we can get it to come out this side. I'll put you on this side. This is the one we're watching right there. See if we can get the whole valve guide to come out. Look at that. Spring. Whew. So I guess I never did break the valve because it was pretty high up. But now we got our spring, we got our valve guide, and that's the way they're supposed to go in and out, honestly. Alright, so this was cylinder 8 intake. Alright, we're not even halfway there. Which one do we want to attempt next? Finish cylinder 8. Wouldn't it be nice if they just pop through like they're supposed to? Oh, we can't because the keepers are still in there. Now, I did hear one account where people were taking a slide hammer, putting a hook on it, just reaching in here, hooking the keepers, and ripping them out. Now that destroys the keepers. I kind of did that with a makeshift slide hammer thing with a pair of vice grips, a cut-off Allen wrench, and some other tools, and it just mangled the keepers. They're not going to be used again. There's a problem with that methodology. And then that also assumes that the valves are going to go all the way out through the top once you do that, which that one did, but it did take driving it in and out a couple times in order to get it to do that. So it wasn't like it was wanting to do that right from the get-go. All right, so we got all our keepers removed. Now we got to try to find a valve that wants to come up or has a way to try to start it up. I see nothing like volunteering. Next thing to try to see if we got any place we can get a purchase on one of these valve heads, which that does not seem promising. Potentially on that one seems like our best shot so far. These three do not appear to be frozen in there around the seats. They don't look too bad, but they are completely sealed. Now, if this was a freed engine, you could rotate it and these valve heads would pop up. And I can tell you this one, this valve stem already looks bent. It looks like I bent that valve while bending on this one. So this valve is probably already toast. So I might as well go ahead and start working on this valve stem and trying to get it out of there. Actually, this valve stem appears to be broken. So I either broke it while working on the other one or it was already broke. And there's a high probability, because I was prying around in here, that I could have broke it while working on it. Alright, let's show you what I'm dealing with. So anyway, this is the one we're working on. I'm going to try to pry out or down on it when I try to pry up on the bottom. You can see how it's kind of flopping around in there. It does not appear to be attached. There we go. See things shooting apart? There we go. All right, that spring's done for. So that one was toasted. We have a broken valve guide in here, so that wasn't going to do us any good anyway. So this valve guide's broken. I don't think I broke that. So we got our spring cup, stem, valve stem broke off, and we got our broken valve guide in there. So what we're going to do with that is just pound that one on in. Oh, I just realized we can't pound that one on in because the valve head's still on it. So I had one just like this on the other side. The valve guide was already broken when I got in there, and it was a bear. I might have to mangle the keeper on this one so I can try to force this out the other side. I don't know. First thing I'm going to try though is to just pry on the stem alone to see if I can get the head to come up. That is not moving. Our options are break off that head out there or try to get this keeper removed. And I don't know if I can get this keeper removed. It's in there at a weird angle, and I'm going to try to hook it. I don't even know if I can get it hooked. Huh? Got it hooked. I don't know if that means I can get it out of here or not though. That's not looking promising. Well, I'm going to try to break the head off. I'm going to tell you from experience on the other side, getting these heads to break when you want them to break is not necessarily really easy. You'd think you just whack it and it would go, but man, I had a heck of a time trying to break one. You can't drill these things. I tried that too. There it went. Something went. I think it may have actually tried to come out. There we go. If these things haven't rusted around this stem, they don't break easy. Anyway, that was a mangled one. We still have the valve guide in there. So there's our broken, mangled valve guide. All right, and I'm halfway done with the other side. I'm gonna lube this all up, let it soak, take a break, then come back out this after a while. Okay, well, I took a break, cooled off, de-grind myself, ready to get back out here and see if we can get these other valves out. Now, for perspective, for me to get these 4 valves out here, all told that took me 2.5 hours. Now, granted, that was explaining things and dealing with the camera and stuff like that, so I guess it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of put you on time lapse, see how long it takes me to get these other 4 out, and I'll stop the time lapse and bring you in if something different occurs. So nothing I'm trying here is working. I can't get these to pop up any. So it's starting to get drastic, and it's time to start seeing if we can break some stems down here. and see if we can get moving forward. Well, that would have been a good one to have on regular speed film. I bent my wrench here, what do you call this thing? But I had this under here, and I had my long pry bar, and I was trying to pry the whole mess up, and something slipped. I don't know how it slipped, but anyway, this came down. I fell on my butt. This wrench went spinning up through the air, came down and conked me on the head. So yeah, that was fun. I wish you could have enjoyed it with me. Oh man. Well, it's been an hour, I think, and I have made very little progress. I've bent a valve, I've broke a guide. That's about it. This thing does not want to go. And how the heck does Morski make it look so easy that he just goes click and the valve breaks? I've been beating on this thing like crazy and I can't get this valve to break. I mean, look at this thing. I've just mangled the snot out of it. And I cannot get that thing to break off. Jiminy Christmas. And I gotta get this head out so I can drive this thing down, because I can't get that valve guide out. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's moving. That's good. Either that or it's twisting off, which I kind of hope that's what it's doing. No, it's moving the whole valve. Okay, I worked very hard to get this valve to this position for a reason. If this was a good valve and you're trying to save it, it's just stuck. It's not bent yet. You haven't screwed it all up, chewing on the shaft, trying to break it, whatever. There is another option that I use. And I was able to use this pretty successfully on a couple of valves on the other side. If you can see down in here where the valve stem is, there's a big gap here. If you can get it to a gap like that, I have this tool I've been kicking around in my toolbox for a long time. I made it for a specific purpose. I don't even remember it. And all it is a bolt that's just cut off. But if you put this bolt in here and put it between two surfaces and loosen the nut, it expands the difference between the two surfaces, and it's a jack. So I did use this successfully on the other side. So let's see if it works on this one here. We got pieces of broken valve guide down in there. All right. Now we've got it between our lifter and our valve stem. Now all I'm going to do now is take my other wrench, hold it steady, the top, hold the bolt part steady with the top, and then get my other wrench out here and start backing the nut off. Oh yeah, it's moving it up. Might be hard to see on film, but it is. I think I just ran out of, I might have just ran out of bolt. Okay, so hopefully you can see now, I pushed that up a good 1/4 of an inch. So if the valve is just stuck on a rough spot or something, you can do that and get it past it to where I can pry them out. So I don't know if this particular valve is to that point yet, but yeah, it sometimes helps. This one's still pretty stuck. Oh, it seems to be moving now. Oh, come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Now, the other thing you can do, if your jack's fully extended like that, you can collapse it down and then put a little metal plate underneath it and do the whole process over. And yeah, it gets repetitive, but it does work. But I don't think I'm going to need it because I think I'm going to get this out now. Here's the thing. I showed you what I wanted to do. Now I'm going to show you another trick. I've got plenty of room here to get to drive my lifter out now. The only thing is I can't drive it out while this valve's in the way. So what are we going to do? We're going to hit the easy button. Since we knew that valve was trash, it was no big deal to do that. Put our socket on. Drive it out. 3 to go. Take our clip off, save it, and it's only been an hour and a half for that one valve. And now you see why people just cut the valves and springs and get new. Now, I do have another 8V motor in my car. That motor is spinning freely, so I have higher hopes for those valves, being able to get them out without destroying everything. And my end goal is to be able to take these 2 motors and have 1 motor when I'm done, hopefully. I think that was number 7 we just took out of there. So let's bag and tag that one and start working on this exhaust. Okay, we're going fast on this one. I went to break the stem, broke off the bottom of the guide, so it's trashed. We are now in a worse position because I have no stem to push on up here, and I have a flush valve over here. So what is a poor boy to do? We are going to hope against hope that I can hook onto that C-clip, mangle it and get it out of there, and then push the guide up. I don't know. Seems rather unlikely to me. Ugh. Okay, so 2.5 hours later, and using a lot of barbaric methods, I've got all the valves out. You can see here, none of them are left in there. I got about 5 hours for that side. I don't remember how long I had on this side. But you know, you can figure a good 10.5 hours in the valve, removing these valves in a stuck motor if you're trying to save them. And you probably won't save a lot of them. You'll break a lot of valves, you'll break a lot of guides. I saved 3 or 4 valves, saved all but one spring, saved all the keepers I think, mangled a few C-clips, and I think I broke less than half of all the valve guides, so I got half the valve guides roughly. I got all those over here in my box, all labeled and separated. We'll clean up and save what we can use, but until then we're going to clean up all the tools and call it for the day because I am tired. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. If you can, click that subscribe button, help my channel out, help me grow. And I think next time we'll either be, I know for sure we're probably going to pull the pan on it and get the oil out of it, and then we'll either be pulling out the bottom end or trying to remove the camshaft and lifters. I don't know which yet, but until then, YouTube, later. Are you kidding me?